morning, everybody. Grab your coffee. It's time for Living with Favor, where we talk about faith, abundance, vitality, overflow, and relationships. I'm Lisa Mosby, your host of Living with Favor. Thank you so much for tuning in and letting me share a bit of advice. Kristina, we were talking about saving, we were talking about budgeting and planning for the future. One of our audience members said, what about if you're in the shame bubble? If you're in a shame bubble and you haven't done it before, how do you move out of that? Maybe the accountability partner that you had mentioned, we bring in an accountability partner that helps us with that. But how do we move out of that shame bubble and just start? Because you've said start, even if it's $1 or 1% today, the key to financial freedom is saving. How do we start if we're so traumatized in our money and our money mindset and our money management?
Yeah. So I love this question. And I love this question more specifically because for those that know me, know that I'm a super positive person. I'm always like, yay, everything's great. Right. And in this time, this is where we have to shift our mindset to be more neutral. It's not positive or negative. You didn't do something wrong or right. You're just here. These are the facts. The other thing with money and think like this is facts. The fact is I have not saved yet. The fact is I have debt. The fact is blah, blah, whatever the facts are, these are the facts. Now we know the facts. We have to get clear on where we're at and what changes are we going to make and make small changes at a time. So if you're shamed that you're however old you are and you haven't done anything yet, then just go into a neutral mindset and forget the past. You can't change anything. We don't have a time machine that we could go back to whatever it was and change what we didn't do. All we can do is change now. So we're going to shift to a neutral mindset. Hey, these are the facts, and this is where I want to get to. So now I have to take the very next step. And if the very next step is to start, I'm going to save $1 or 1%, set that up. Set up a bank account somewhere, wherever it is, and set if you have direct deposit or if however you receive money, set that so much money just automatically goes into that account and then forget about it. That's the first next step if you're shamed of, I didn't save anything. The other way that people feel shame is, I'm whatever age I'm at and I have no savings and I have a crap ton of credit card debts. Right? Me personally, I start with, okay, stop using your credit cards, pay the minimum payments, and we're going to save. And again, I don't care if you're saving $1 or 1%, you're going to save until you have 3 months of your living expenses saved. And then after you have at least 3 months, I know it's not the 6 or 12 months that I talked about, but we also have credit card debt now, right? So if we can first build our emergency fund, then for 3 months, then once that's built, we stop saving and we take everything that we were saving and now pay off our debt. And whatever debt strategy works best for you, you pay that off. And a lot of times when I'd say that to people, they're like, but Kristina, I'm paying all this interest. I'm like, yeah, you are. And guess what? If you do that, if you just take all your money and pay off your credit card debt and have no savings and now all your credit card debt is paid off and you have an emergency, where are you going to get the money? Yeah, you're going to go back and create the same habit. So you have to, if you want to make a change in what you're doing, you have to change what you're doing. Right? So then do that. And people are like, that's going to take forever. It might be. It might take forever. I had a client one time that came to me, this was several years ago, had great income, had a small mortgage. They were very responsible, but also had over $100,000 in credit card debt. It took them, I think, 7 or 8 years to pay everything off.
Wow.
Can you imagine? And there was ups and downs.
Overwhelming. How overwhelming would that be when you sit down to pay bills? I mean, the stress on your body and your mind and your mindset and the quality of your life. You had fun spending it, but now trying to pay that off, I can't even imagine. Yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of cut you off on that, but yeah, keep going.
No, but the thing is, like, it took a long time, and that's relative. What's a long time? But The thing was that they started it. If they started it, and then when they did it, I remember the husband calling me crying, Kristina, I just paid off the last credit card. It brings so much emotion to me because it took a long time and they had some struggles, but they did it. And had they not started then, it would have never got to that point. And they were in their 40s at this time. So my point is, if you're shame, awesome. Take it, embrace shame. Thank you, shame, for showing up for me today. And then move into a neutral mindset. Where are you? What's the facts? Where do you want to go? And take the very next step. Whether it's, and it always should be saving. If you haven't saved or if you have debt, save something.
Beautiful. So we've covered saving, we've covered mindset, we've covered debt a little bit. What type of investments should people consider to build wealth and work towards financial freedom? Even if you're saving and you have, or after, I should say, after you have your 6 months or your year of savings for your monthly expenses, your emergency fund set aside, what are the next steps after that? Because we probably have some people on this call that are not sure, how do I trust brokers? I know personally I've had some negative experiences. I've made some poor decisions and put my money places that I shouldn't have and then lost a big chunk of money. So how do we get to a safe space in our minds and in our processes for choosing investments? Where do we look and what types of financial instruments should we be using for financial freedom?
I love that question. And again, it depends on the person, right? So this is why I always go back to what is your relationship with money and also understanding what you're in alignment with. So let's first think about like, what are the ways that you can invest money to grow your wealth and create that financial freedom? One is the stock market, right? The stock market is with, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. And over time, history has shown that the stock market just goes up and down. But traditionally, it goes up and down always in an upward motion, right? We're going to have some volatility, but that's meant for long-term gain. Every once in a while, you're going to get into a stock at a certain time and you might be able to create consistent and incredible wealth. For me, the stock market, its main job is to hedge against inflation. Right. So if we're not doing that, if we're not getting our money to work for us in the stock market, then we're losing because inflation is outgrowing and outpacing what we're saving. But then also the other ways that we can invest is maybe in real estate. So if you're a person that likes real estate, then get to know and understand what that looks like for you and have rules and strategies. Just like for the stock market, have rules and strategies. How much of your savings are you going to invest? What percentage are you going to put in specific stocks and or in like ETFs or mutual funds, right? And then also with real estate, if that's something that you choose because you're interested in it and you're in alignment with it, then what's the best way to leverage for real estate? And I like to use that word leverage. We just were talking about debt. I use two different words for debt. Debt, like the bad debt, like credit cards and unsecured debt, is debt. But when we leverage, we're getting our money, we're using somebody else's money or our money to create more money, right? So we're either getting an income stream and or investing in an appreciating asset like real estate, right? The other ways that we can invest is in businesses. So whether you're investing in your own business or you're buying and selling other people's businesses, there are some people that I know that are super great at buying businesses that are struggling, and they buy them and then they reorganize them and they get them running and then they sell them. So they have like a 5-year plan with that, and then they make money that way. And then there's the untraditional, digital currencies, things like that, that people get into. And every single one of those things I've listed, I have seen people make a lot of money and lose a lot of money. And so the thing that I say is, what is in alignment with yourself? And it's the same as people investing in either affiliate marketing or direct sales or anything like that. If you are in alignment with any of those things that I listed, then you're probably going to be successful. But if you're doing something that you're not in alignment with, then you probably won't be as successful, right? But it's about creating the rules and boundaries with all of those types of investments.
Love that. That's so true. When I'm a bit of a crunchy person, a sort of like, happy I love, that's why I'm going to go live off the grid for a little bit. I want to invest or put my money with people who are supporting things about the earth and saving the planet. And I really don't want to invest necessarily in tobacco or nicotine. And so sometimes it's harder to find those funds or those companies that do that, but they are out there. That's what's amazing. When you're saying find something that's in alignment with you, those things do exist out there. So again, using a financial planner, somebody who's on your side, an advocate to help walk through that strategy of what's going to be in alignment for you. How much money are we going to set aside? What are your financial goals of the future? It's worth doing that with somebody. Even if you don't have money to invest today, starting in on that mentality, that mindset, that process of I have to figure out how I'm going to take care of myself. I don't want to rely on the church, the state, the government to be taking care of me in my retirement. My children is another one. A lot of us are, as we age, it's like, oh, I don't have any kids. I'm in trouble. So, preparing for that future starts with that conversation. And we don't always know what questions to ask if we're not in that. This is going to lead me into a question about financial literacy. But first, we do have somebody who chimed in and commented about, I always heard that it was important to pay off debt first because your debt accrues interest. And we did kind of cover that, but they had a question about it. So I wanted to like revisit that real quick. Why save before debt? Can you kind of repeat yourself maybe in a different way there?
Why save before debt? And again, going back to what I said, let's save at least 3 months. We need to have some type of emergency bucket to pull from, because if we go and pay off all our debt and then we need money, now we're creating debt again. It's that cycle. And so to answer that question, yes, if you wait and you save first and you still have that debt, yes, you are 1,000% paying more in interest. That is correct. It's the emotional side behind that we need to change, those habits, those emotional spending habits, those emotional habits. And then I want to go into, we're talking a lot about how to pay off debt, but as we're paying off debt, like we also have to learn how to create debt properly. We don't see a lot of education on how to create debt, right? And so it's going into also financial literacy and
Financial literacy, that's where we want to go. Yeah.
Understanding that there is a logical side to money, which is where it comes from. Hey, you need to pay off your debt so you're not spending more in interest, to the emotional side of money. Hey, you need to build an emergency fund first, or else you're never going to get out of this cycle, right? The other thing I say, a lot of times when people say I have debt I want to pay off, it might be credit cards or unsecured loans or student loans. And then I always ask people, like, what if it's a mortgage, or what I look like, or even a car, right? So what I look at is, what interest rate are you paying on that debt? You're leveraging that debt. What is the interest that you're paying versus what is the interest that money can be making in the stock market and or money market? So right now we're in this incredible place that a lot of people have still very low interest mortgages, right? Could be anywhere from 2 to 4%. Well, in a money market right now, you can earn between 5 and 5.5%. And then in the stock market, the stock market's going to do what it's going to do, but it's been averaging this year more than that 5%. So if you're paying 3 or 4% and you can earn 5%, probably makes more sense to earn this money. And then I always say, especially if it's with a mortgage, have enough money to have the opportunity to pay that off. But if you're making more money than what you're paying, then just build this up, because with compound interest, yes, you'll pay more, or you save more in interest if you pay it off, but you'll probably make twice as much if you let it work for you. So build that up and then have the opportunity to pay your house off, because once you pay your house off, or once you pay off a debt, then that money is gone, right? And if you need that money again, you have to pay to get it back. So whether you're selling your home, you're paying a commission. Whether you're refinancing, you're paying somebody to do all that, right? Where if you have it working for you in whatever way, whatever investment vehicle you chose, that's working for you. And then if the opportunity comes where you're in a position that you have to and or want to pay that off, then you can.
Beautiful. That's a great way to say that. Financial literacy, when we understand the financial vehicles that are out there, how to contribute to those financial vehicles that are available to us, the people and the resources that are available, we just don't know. You know, you come out of high school or you come out of college, there's a few financial classes. And I know you've taught some programs at the college here in Tampa, Florida. Um, but it's not readily available. And I think that's a big reason why we see so much of the general public struggling with their finances is because sometimes we just flat out don't know what to do. And you don't even know what questions to ask. You don't know what you don't know. So where do people tap into resources, financial literacy resources? I know you have a master class. Are there other places, trusted resources that people can access to learn more about personal finance and how to set themselves up for the future?
Yes, so there are several. There is actually a lot of different, and I'm seeing more and more financial gurus doing education specifically for kids. And in the state of Florida, I know the governor implemented that financial literacy has to be taught in high school. So there are some states that are making a more powerful statement, and we see more and more things coming out with financial literacy. A lot of them around for kids. And the great thing is, even if they're for kids, adults can listen too. I have found so many adults in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are like, man, I really should know this, but I don't know this. And it's okay. It goes back to the person that was asking about, well, what if I'm shame? Like, shame is shame. Embrace shame. Be like, I just didn't know. We don't know what we don't know, right? If you're also, looking for a financial advisor or a financial planner, I always say, hey, work with somebody that's a true fiduciary. There's a difference between a fiduciary advisor or a fiduciary planner versus somebody that's working for a company and they just get paid commissions based off of what they're selling you, right? So if you're working with an advisor that's a fiduciary, their job and their role is to guide you with unbiased of how much money they make. So they usually get paid a percentage based on what they're managing for you, and or they're charging a flat fee. And I hear a lot of things out there like, oh, you shouldn't pay a percentage, or you should only pay, a flat fee. And I say, again, it depends on where you're at in life and what your values are. Because if you're starting out small, paying a percentage is way cheaper than paying a flat fee. But then as you grow your assets, then maybe you want to look at paying a flat fee versus paying a percentage of your assets that you're managing. The questions really, it's knowing and understanding the questions to ask. So I want to say that there's a lot of books, there's a lot of podcasts. If you go on podcasts and search money, you're going to find so many different things. You're going to find money coaches that have no financial background. You're going to find financial advisors that may not understand the mindset part or the emotions behind it so much. They're just very transactional. But what's great about that is that we're all different too. Some of us are just very transactional. Some of us are really heavy in the emotions, and we need the opposite to kind of balance us out. But just search for different books. There's books, there's podcasts, there's all the people. There's a lot of institutions. Even I know Fidelity is coming out with, they have a program for kids to start learning how to invest money. And so we're going to see that more and more with a lot of institutions. But just read or listen to a few different people, and then just be in alignment with somebody. Like, somebody will stick out to you. And I always tell people, when you're looking for a financial advisor, I have a different viewpoint than other advisors. But who do you feel the most comfortable with? Because the most important thing is that you are able to be vulnerable and tell your financial advisor or planner exactly how you feel, right? And if you can't open up and be vulnerable, then it's really not going to work.
You have a favorite that you like to listen to or read?
I have a few favorites, and they're not actual financial, like, they're not your typical financial advisor. So I love Jen Sincero. She talks a lot about money. She has the you're a badass at making money and all those things. Also, I love boring books about money. So, like, the technical side, they're not like incredibly fun to read, but there was it the guy that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki. Yeah, Kiyosaki.
His CPA, which I can't remember his name right now, wrote an incredible book called Tax-Free Wealth. And I love reading books like that. So there's all these different books. So Tony Robbins has a lot of things about
Money
finance.
Master of the Game. Yep. Yep.
And so for me, it's like all those. I also just read a lot of articles. So I tend to like to learn all the things. So if somebody says, "Hey, Kristina, this is great," I look at that, but then I am like, what's the opposite viewpoint of that? Because I always want to know if you look at people that are pushing products or pushing things, they usually have some kind of bias behind it, right? So I want to know what's the opposite of that so I can make my own opinion, right?
Yeah. It's all in alignment, mindset, attitude, let go of the shame, move into a space of abundant thinking versus lack thinking. What kind of mistakes do people make? What are some of the mistakes that we could avoid on this journey to financial freedom? And how do we avoid them? I know financial literacy is a big part of it, but are there some things that we're missing in that arena of common mistakes?
So one that I found is like we're not ever taught to talk about money, right? So one of the common mistakes is feeling shame or feeling like, hey, I don't know, I did this and I messed up, I lost money or whatever. And then you're ashamed or you feel bad, so you can't go to your family, your spouse, or whoever it is. And so then you just sit in that shame and then it just snowballs from there. So one of the things that I try to help create families and couples do is to create a safe space to talk about money so that we can go into that neutral mindset, right? Things like the biggest mistakes, if you will, I think people make is one, not saving or trying to save too much so that they take from their savings. The other thing is over leveraging. So a lot of times, and I kind of use this as like, whether you're getting a promotion and now you have a raise, you're now spending that raise. So that's the biggest mistake I see people is like when your income increases, then you automatically just spend that. You start buying things and spending that money before you even get your first increased pay, right? So if we could shift to, hey, I got a raise, let's increase our foundation first because now you have more money than you had. And the first thing we want to do is, oh yeah, oh look, I can go spend more money. No, save it first. Save it first, increase your emergency fund, and now you can freely spend. Right. The other thing is a mistake on the opposite way. People save their whole life and never enjoy life because they feel like, oh, like I have people and clients that I meet with, and they're like, they're so scared to spend money, and their saves are like money hoarders, is what I call them. And they save, and don't have any fun. And then I'm like, you guys can actually spend money. You can spend 30 to 50,000 a year on travel. Why don't you do that? Why don't you enjoy life? And it's like they have to have permission to do that. So I like to when people are creating the rules for money is set aside some money for guilt-free spending, for vacations, for those things, because you have to have a balance of getting your money to work for you and living life today in the present.
I'm hearing that word fear again. Fear when you're saving and holding on to everything, money hoarder. That's an interesting perspective. I've had times in my life where I've been that person. I think for me, one of the things that I realized is that you need to admit your mistakes sometimes. Find a financial planner that you can dump all that on, like just have a brain dump and say, okay, I'll give an example. Early on in business, we had filed for a patent and we thought we had it. The attorney said, yeah, go ahead and print all of your material. We're good to go. Well, our copyright passed in the mail with somebody else's copyright, and they got theirs recorded before ours was recorded. We were like 30 minutes apart or something. It was ridiculous. But we had spent $30,000 on course training material and all kinds of things that go around, and they were built around the name that we had chosen, that we filed for, that we thought was going to be ours. Our attorney gave us the go ahead. We had to take unopened boxes of brochures and 3-ring binders, training manuals, and walk outside to the dumpster, and $30,000 worth of stuff went in there. Now, $30,000 mistake with a startup, relatively new startup company is could be devastating, but I promise you, we never made that mistake again. And so even your mistakes can actually help you in the future. When you make those mistakes, it's like, don't hide behind them and don't be embarrassed by them. Have that moment of shame and then say, okay, I know what doesn't work and I'm a master at that. I know what doesn't work. So how do I find what does? Who do I go talk to about that and get in that space of, a safe space so that you can talk about it. And for me, the most freeing thing I've ever done is just tell people my mistakes. I used to do a thing called Coach Confessions, and I would confess my mistakes and the things that weren't working, the things that I've tried with clients, and they failed miserably. But we're all humans, so none of us is expected to be able to do things and be perfect at it. So we have to allow mistakes to happen. So I love that. And then, when you're talking about getting in alignment, and then the mistakes that are kind of that happen even when you're in alignment, it's like, forgive yourself, give yourself grace. Doesn't need to be that way. Yeah.
And I would
We're
say,
kind of getting to the end. Go ahead. Final
so
thoughts on that one?
I was just gonna say yes, like know and embrace your mistakes and learn from them and
Yeah.
get out of your head. Don't be like, oh, I'm a failure now. You need to like, nope, go back to neutral. Here's the facts. Yes.
Get back to neutral. Last section that I want to talk about is retirement planning. How should we approach retirement planning to ensure that they have enough to live comfortably on in later years? I'm in that space. I'm at that age where I don't have enough currently. So I'm like, I got to get my business growing. I gotta ramp it up. I got to expand. Um, just because my numbers aren't lining up because I made some poor decisions, a divorce in there kind of derails a lot of things. So there's so many things that can happen for life. And I thought I was prepared and I thought I was good. But then when you cut all that stuff in half, it changes the outcome in the end. And so what are things that people can do to secure themselves for that financial future, that retirement time of life?
Well, again, it starts with saving, right? And it's never too late. Wherever you're at is where you're at. So just getting back to neutral and figuring out the facts. Where are you now? And what is your gap? Like, what are you missing? So working with an advisor or a planner, helping you to figure out, well, what kind of life do you want to live in retirement? And then what can you do today to help get you to that place, right? So whether it's in your business, like you just said, okay, I need to ramp up my business, I need to make more money. A lot of times people aren't in that mindset. People may not have businesses or they may not have this and like, well, I'm stuck. And so it doesn't matter how old you are. If you get into that scarcity, like, oh, I'm stuck, I can't do anything. No, slap that out your face. Like, go find somebody to help you to say, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is where I'd like to go. What are my ways that I can at least start gearing towards that? And I see that Janine joined us. So I'd love to see what she has to say in this space as well, because she's an incredible advisor as well.
Thank you
We'll
so
invite her
much,
in.
Coach Chris. Yeah,
Janine,
and
welcome. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. Do you want to chime in on this topic of retirement planning?
with honors. And I love that these conversations are always happening regardless of what time zones we're in. Because when I really take a reflection on what it means to be in a space, to start having conversations with people who have decades of experience prior to me, I love that I can lean in the faith of knowing that it's not always a one size fits all, but these strategies are so profoundly unique to have people feel the simplicity of just sharing what they want to accomplish and knowing we can walk them not only forward, but onward into expanding. How can they have those opportunities? So Lisa, you're not alone. And when I think about the opportunity for people to even have a conversation about a financial needs analysis and going over the 5 essentials and then yes, creating a legacy, what I love being a key representative is to have first to build to yourself to speak about it. And as you speak about it, you start seeing what is actually just in your head. So you can actually start dissolving those areas of fear and move into your heart to then know if it's on your heart that you want to get it done, it will be done in a way that'll not only have you be blessed, but create that abundance to have you knowing that a number is literally just a measurement. And the measurement isn't to have you be competing with anyone else. It's to challenge your character and where you really want to move into your space that has you having enough, being enough to give, and also to live in a thriving lifestyle. And so I think a lot of people having these conversations first challenge the opportunity to get beyond where you say, I cannot, and really step forward and say, well, where can I? And create from that, because you can't control an area that you feel you're out of control of. And so actually, like working with people like Chris and actually like myself, having us first see if it's a good match to actually share what you want to do before you actually start taking any of the steps.
Yeah. You know, when before we logged on, Chris and I were having a chat, and I said, I have a feeling that this financial conversation is going to go a little bit differently. Like, you know, when people talk finances, they talk numbers and where do we invest and how do we save and how much, and we get into those specifics of it. And Janine, thanks for bringing us back to what we had started off with, and that was holistic financial freedom. And that is the mindset and getting in alignment with the investments that it is that you're going to use. Finding people that you trust so that you can share that shame and you can share what's going on in your life, that they're going to come alongside you. They're not going to be your preacher and your teacher and tell you what to do. They're going to listen to you and devise a plan that works within your strategies and your outcomes so that you continue to work that plan. If somebody gives us a plan and says, you must do this and blah, 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 and these are your deadlines, the likelihood of you doing that or even sticking with them starts to plummet if it's not in alignment. So I'm going to throw this one to you, Janine. We've kind of heard from Coach Chris a little bit. Money Coach Chris. I keep dropping that money word, Coach Chris. Money Coach Chris. She's kind of given us her overview of all of those things. But when we speak to holistic financial freedom, Janine, what comes to mind for you?
Being your word. I feel like being on that space of what it means for you to feel whole, complete, and confident truly has me in that celebration that what I operate from, Lisa, is the idea that people know that there is no families left behind. And that starts with your own. And truly, that has you being in a space that realizes, if I want this to be done, I have to be able to know why I want it to get done. And the moment you know why, things just start opening up. And so I feel like the holistic approach truly is for you to find your voice of what has you find the value, because no one can tell you your own value except for yourself. And then you being committed and finding the conviction to keep spreading that good word, to have other people find that self-worth. And so when I think about the holiness of like the whole and complete package, it's having people recognize that, yes, no families are left behind. It starts with yours, and it starts with you knowing how to help your own family. And granted, I'm going to be completely frank, I did not start in this industry. I'm an engineer by trade, and I feel like my passion to have projected projects now be projected people is what fills me with my holistic approach. It's having me recognize I can't do it better than they will do it for themselves. And as a fiduciary, I know Money Coach Chris operates the same way. We want people to want it more than we do, because you can only do so much to bring a horse to water. And if they don't want to drink, that's okay, but we at least can lead the way. And just be knowing that wherever we are in our holistic approach, there is no wrongdoing with someone not wanting to do the work, but there is something to pursue. And there's something that really says about you as you're on your holistic approach, where if you aren't willing to show them, there's something that might be there for you. And so I love that when we think about money, more than it just being a source of energy, we're having people rewrite their relationship. And I feel like that's the biggest thing, because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And so if your approach with money is, I don't deserve it, I don't know what to do with it, it never stays with me. Imagine being married to money. I don't think that relationship would last too long. And so, yeah, I feel like the first thing is for you to get your word on your worth, and then to continue to build your own wealth. And I think that's the best holistic approach.
Love it. Beautiful. Chris, any final words on this holistic approach to money? Are there any things that we missed? And then I'm going to open it up to the audience. I shut it off. If the audience wants to come in, raise your hand. We can certainly take some questions for those folks live. But yeah, what do you think, Chris? Final thoughts on holistic approach to money?
Yeah, I want to end with words that I tell people in the beginning when I first start speaking is I want people to walk away with these three things from me. One is everything is made up. 2, there are no rules. And 3, no one is in charge. So if that's true, we get to create the life that we want to live. We get to create the rules that we live by, and our rules dictate who is in charge for us. So when we look at money as a holistic approach, your relationship with money, like I love that Janine said, if you're in a marriage with money, like I have my clients write a love letter to money as if it were a person, because I want you to really fully understand your relationship with money. Because if you don't, then it doesn't matter who you're working with. Like you said, like nothing's going to be consistent. So if we can first understand your relationship with money, your mindset of it, right? The energy behind it, then the plan becomes super easy. Then whatever plan you put in place is going to work. So
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. I love that. Whatever plan you put in place is going to work if you're committed to it and you get the support around you. Don't be choosing somebody that's going to teach and preach to you is one way of doing it. But from what I'm hearing from both of you ladies is that we want people to come alongside us, and we want people who are good listeners so that they can help us to formulate the plan that's in alignment with us. I think we might leave it there. We don't have any hands from the audience. People shared their notes in there. Janine, I know you're excited. You're here at the end. We brought you in just like to get your perspective on it. I'm going to let you have the last words before we wrap up this show. Oh, you're on mute.
Unmute. Thank you for that, Lisa. And it is interesting because the way Money Coach Chris just said it, like that was perfectly said. Because I feel like so often we need to be honest with ourselves what games we're playing. Because you are going to win whatever games you truly are on the court to do, and just being honest with yourself. Because one of the biggest things we always talk about is not just the belief it's being done, have the expectancy that it will. Because regardless of where you are currently, keep speaking from that future fulfilled, knowing that you are wealthy, you are abundant, and wherever you are bringing others, it will transform their life. Because if we continue to be in the space of it not being done, it'll never get there. And so what I honor in this space too, Lisa, that you've created for so many women, and not just where it is in the conversation about wealth, but truly having the well and whole complete package, knowing that it's worth it. No one says it's going to be easy, y'all, but they always say it's worth it. And so with that, there's plenty of room at the top, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Beautiful. Where can we find you, ladies? How do we connect with you? Chris, you go first.
yeah, so you can find me on all socials. You said it earlier, at Money Coach Chris with a K, K-R-I-S. So just find me, follow me. I have some great things coming up. And so just reach out to me if you need some help with anything.
Beautiful. And Janine, where we find you?
My goodness. Same with Money Coach Chris. I am literally everywhere. And on top of that, I would love if you would just reach out to me. And I do not think it is weird for me to give you my phone number, because one of the biggest things that I do every morning is also leading a meditation to have people realize their words are creating their world. And so if you ever just want to have a conversation or create any type of intimacy with yourself around where you're relating with the comfort of creating boundaries and also breaking down borders, you can reach me at 760-215-0214. I look forward to connecting and communicating with you.
Beautiful. All right, folks, this was a full power-packed hour episode. I'm going to wrap it up here by saying, if you need any help with your financial freedom process, getting the ball rolling, please reach out to these ladies. The generosity of spirit that they hold will help you to define what your next steps are, whether you work with them or they can connect you to the resources that are more in alignment with you. They both are heart-centered leaders in the world of finance, and I would encourage you, please connect with them. They can help to shift the trajectory of your life and even improve the one that you're on. If you need some help with your social media, or you're an entrepreneur that is expanding your brand on any of the socials, I would love to have a chat with you. And you can pop over to lisamosby.com. That's Lisa, MOSBEY.com, and schedule 30 minutes with me. We'll go ahead and talk about what I can do to help you, or how I can come alongside you to grow your business online. I want to talk to entrepreneurs, network marketers, and anyone who loves to do affiliate marketing. So please reach out. And come on back next week. We'll be talking about fellowship. We have two new guests, two special guests talking about fellowship. And what we mean by fellowship is, how do you get in relationship with the people in your life? Whether it's your money manager, your children, your husband, the people at work, what does fellowship look like to you? Let's build our relationships. Come on back next week, everybody. Thanks for joining us.